scattered thoughts, half-spoken ideas, the words that you've never claimed. These are the seeds of the message that somebody, especially you, needs to hear right now, today. Hi, my name's Steve Kidd. I'm a third-generation minister, international best-selling author of 39 books and counting. I've had the amazingly wonderful privilege of working with more than 5,000 people, helping them write, publish, market their books to bestseller, and everything that goes beyond that. And what I'm here to do is to help you really be clear so that you can be visible and valuable. Clarity is the thing that is the most powerful. It's the thing that we all need in order to truly make the impact, truly make the difference that only you can make in this world. And even as I invite a couple of people to come in and join us here on this particular topic, I want to spend some time today talking about your words, random as they may feel, and the message that they become, the message that they already always have been and always will be and totally are, and the message that they're going to become to impact the life that begins with a person that you see all too often. You see them every time you look in the mirror. That's right, you. You need to first make that massive impact in your own life. And it may be, we talked about this yesterday, about spending the 10,000 hours to create a habit. And we need to be able to often spend that 10,000 hours getting our ears, only just ours. Nobody else in the world matters in what I'm saying right here. Okay, everybody else does matter, but in this particular case, it doesn't matter. Your two ears, this ear here and this ear here, needs to hear this mouth saying the thing over and over and over and over and over again. It takes 10,000 hours for you to be an expert at something. Okay, and in addition to that, or along with that, or what that means, whichever way you want to look at that 10,000 hours, more than anything, that expertise has to do with you finally accepting you're an expert. I did, it was probably a month and a half ago. We talked about the fact that you already have a doctorate in you. You are the absolute expert at you. You know who doesn't believe that? You. Now, I've got a whole program that I put together, and I did it jokingly, but I'm totally willing to give it to you. No charge, totally free. I will send you a digital certificate that is a certificate of merit, that is the PhD of you. You will be Dr. You. Okay? If you want the Dr. You award, reach out to me and let me know. We will make you Dr. You. Because you're the expert. You are the absolute pro at being you. Nobody else can do it, no matter how hard they try. Actors play the role of somebody, and some of them nail it. I remember this was probably more than a decade ago. There was a person that had taken, especially there for a while, people were taking celebrities, Instagram handles or Facebook handles and stuff, and saying they were them, and that's where a lot of people now have the real so-and-so, okay, because they didn't have it themselves, and then somebody came out and was impersonating them. And there was a dude, I promise you, I thought it really was Christopher Walken. This guy had his tone inflection, his voice in a written concept nailed. Okay. And I've seen some really great impersonators that can sound exact. You can close your eyes and be like, oh, wow. I didn't know. There was back in the day, some of you may know we ran a store called Experience Twilight back when the Twilight movies were all the rage and everything. And it was based out of the book that we wrote was at one point the number one best-selling movie-related travel guide on Amazon. And we had a guy that came in that was a Rob Pattinson impersonator. And I swear to you, We had conversations around if you were Rob Pattinson, because Rob had gone from complete obscurity to totally in the limelight with that one movie. Maybe you don't know that the original Twilight movie was an indie film. In fact, it was their last film they were going to make. That particular company was completely out of business. And they already had the funding and the people in place, and everybody in that film basically, didn't get paid up front. They got paid on the back end, kind of a situation. And all of that kind of stuff. The director, Catherine Hardwicke, it was the first time she had ever actually directed a film. She was always an art director previously to that. On and on and on, blah, blah, blah. Okay. This guy came into the store, because we had a retail store. Right there in one of the major filming locations for the movie and stuff. And seriously, we had the whole conversation about, if you were Rob Pattinson, you went from complete obscurity to total fame, why not claim, oh no, that's not really me, I'm actually a Rob impersonator? And we were like, what it was. And the funny thing about it is, this guy's name was Ian, by the way. The funny thing about it is, the harder Ian tried to impersonate Rob, the less he looked like him. When he just was kind of hanging out, just chilling, being himself, and not trying to do his quote unquote Rob, had it nailed totally. Like, at the very least, they were twins who had gotten used to playing the roles of one another. You would have thought, okay? But even with that, even somebody who has that kind of impersonation down, they'll never be you. They can't do it. There will be nuances to who you are and how you are. Now, here's one of the things, and this is the sad part about that. And it is that most of the things, unfortunately, that nobody else can duplicate that is you, is all the head trash that you have that they don't know about. You see, you're showing up in the world. I mean, I'm constantly talking to you about being out here speaking, doing the thing, but I see you too. I see how much massive impact you're making in the world. Whether you're making a lot of money from it or not, I see the impact you're making. I absolutely do. And unfortunately, the people who try to imitate you or flat out steal your stuff and create their own program that's totally yours. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Some of us know how to do that. And we know what that feels like. The thing they totally missed in all that, unfortunately, often is your head trash. You completely overlooked how important Hawaiian philosophy is in everything you do. Yeah, it's that deep inside of you. So think about that one for a minute, Patricia. And I know you've ran into that same thing where you've created things and people have flat out stolen them. Now imagine if, going back previously to this year, a key component of that would have been your heritage, and not just that, because, we've all ran into people who know a lot about something that I had a buddy of mine. He actually had cerebral palsy. He, according to, I didn't know him when he was a baby. I knew him as an adult. But according to what he told me, had he been a minute, it was funny because somebody said to him one time, a minute earlier on blah, 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 and it had something to do with oxygen deprivation in the womb, a minute sooner, and he would have had like 90% more function. And he looked at them, he said, yeah, but a minute longer and I'd be dead. And he overcame all that. And he was a huge, huge Vietnam War buff, like to the point where for a while, he had a version of what we used to call shell shock, PTSD, that really impacted him because he had immersed himself deeply, deeply into that. Okay. But the truth of the matter is, with as deeply into that as he was, he had never been in Vietnam. And there were just certain aspects of it that he didn't. And he would be the first one to tell you. Yeah, copycats miss the mark. And if and that's why you need to know and be and do you. And that's why and you kind of notice the shift, and it happened on the fly. It was really cool, kind of how God put it together. Um, and I may even have to go back through some of my scripting stuff and do some change ups for where we're going this, because I realized, yes, I want you to go live, and yes, absolutely you should, and yes, somebody's suffering in your silence, and all those things are still true. But the person that's suffering in your silence is you. The person who doesn't see you as an expert is you. Some of you have the 10,000 hours. Some of you literally have the certificates. Some of you even have them posted up on the wall. You've got the master's degree, the doctorate, the certificate from, you've worked with XYZ company. I did a book with a lady, marketed it. She had written her own book that was the literally hired by the royal family of England to be the financial advisor to what's his face, Prince. What's the one that has not left that? Not the one that's married to Meghan Markle, but the other one, Prince, whatever his name is. Anyway, the one that is Harry, the good son. I don't know enough about the English royalty these days to know. But yes, the one that is married and has the wife and the kids and stuff like that. Not the one that's married to the chick from Hollywood and that kind of things. Whichever one it is. But this lady was literally hired to be his financial advisor because of how well she was doing with things. Okay. And I said to her, I was working with her for a while. I said to her, that should be all over everywhere. You can get financial advice from the literal advisor to two kings or two princes or to the royal family, or however you want to slate that. See, the uniqueness of who you are is something that the copycats, the impersonators, they can't really do it. And the reason why, and I know this in my own life, I've said out loud, and anybody that knows me knows, there are probably upwards of hundreds. In fact, what I would really say is anybody that has a program to make you a bestseller, they're using the system that I created 17-ish years ago now. They've never heard of me. Now, why is that? Well, the big piece in my own personal life, and we've talked about this before, I spent more than a decade living as the walking dead. I had dropped out completely in my own life. And yeah, we could go into all the stuff with my ex and blah, 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 and a total different philosophy between how I do business and how she wanted to do the business, and it not being worth a fight and all that kind of stuff. In the end, all of those reasons, excuses, rationales, whatever, really don't really mean much, because what it really boiled down to is I let them be the ones that if you go out and you do a search for a bestseller program, you're going to find them and probably aren't going to find me. It's rough. Because I didn't believe it. I didn't see it. And I didn't tell the world it. We've talked about early on when I started going live like this again every single day. The fact that I had initially started the concept of going live every day in March of 2020, right at the very first or second day of the lockdown. And I did it on purpose for one and only reason, and that was just to let everybody know you're not alone and we got this, we're going to make it through. Now, I should have had some philosophy behind it. What I really should have done is I should have created a really big community. If I had created a community then that was just encouragement, we got this, we're going to make it through, pulling, everybody, come together. If we can't give each other hugs, let's give each other virtual hugs. And if I had done all that, and I would have invited people every single one of those times, it would have worked even more effectively. But as we all got used to the kookiness, you had to put on a mask to go into the bank. I love that. Wait a minute, I got to put a mask, I'm going to go do my banking. Right. you know but what if I would have stuck with that going back? So it's, if you're listening live, it's August, it's September now, actually, of 2025. That's 5.5 years versus this having been 3 months that we're here, and all the progress that we've made. And if I would have, had and put in place, like I have now, a virtual assistant that was taking and repurposing all of that content, what would you kind of cap off when it comes to the number of followers you have on Facebook, but and I'm at like about 10,000 people on LinkedIn, and I completely lost my Instagram account, so I had to restart it again, and I'm back to about 160 people on Instagram. But what should it have been? Why wasn't it? Because I didn't believe in me. Because with the tens of hundreds of thousands of hours that I put out doing this thing, I didn't let it sink into my ears. I spoke to you versus listening to me. Do you see the point there? You're hearing your words coming out of your mouth is where those words become the message. Because the message is your belief, really. Formerly mute speaker, a Hawaiian from Turtle Island, but adding the descendant of queens is scary. Yeah, it is. But what if you owned it? I get it's scary. I absolutely see that. But what if you owned it? The descendant of queens, a Hawaiian from Turtle Island, or maybe even the Hawaiian descendant of queens caught on Turtle Island. Something along those lines. Something to play around with. There's some fun stuff that we could do in there. What I'm saying is, and Patricia, it's a real great example. I'm so glad you're here today, because that's the thing that they can't duplicate. They can try, they could pretend, they could fake it, but it's not real. That truly you is something that's unduplicatable. And what we want to do is we want to create this polished and perfect, and if I just put it all together and I get the verbiage just right, and I have the stage presentation, and I've got the Oprah or Tony or blah 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 kind of Hawaiian descendant of queens, born and raised on Turtle Island. Yeah, there's a book in there. Absolutely, that's a book we need to really look at, Patricia. And each one of you have that book, that uniqueness. The whole reason why I'm constantly hammering on the concept of you need to write a book, somebody's waiting on you, you need to speak your words, is because you need it. The process of going through, moving two things simultaneously. I'm literally telling you two things at once, okay? Because I'm a manifesting generator and I spin multiple plates simultaneously, okay? But seriously, the whole concept that is The heart and soul of your message is born out of you speaking it. So, what are the ways that you can speak it? Well, yeah, you can just do like I'm constantly telling you, pick up your phone. Hi, my name is. What I'd like to talk to you about today is. If you want to go to the advanced version, hi, my name is. What I do is, and what I'd like to speak to you today is. Okay, you can do that. For some of you, that's going to be scary. We've got a visibility amplifier community where you can come in and you can share those things. But this is where, and this is why books can't let me go. I mean, I love books anyway, okay? Yeah, I mean, we all ought to know that by now. But this is where it can't let me go, is because deeply embedded in the process that I have that is relatively unique to me. And I know there's some people that have duplicated it, but I know that they can't do the me version of that because there's a whole lot of intuition in and empathy in me doing the interview with you. Is me listening to what you're saying as you just talk. The perfect interview, I'll tell you this straight up, the perfect interview for book writing interview is when somewhere in the middle of it you say, does this even make any sense? That's when I know I've got you in the zone, because then you're just talking and you're not even totally in touch with exactly what you said. I'm just sparking a question. I'm saying, go with that. Say more about that. What did you mean by that thing? And that's where it really starts to come to life. And then, I'm really blessed to have Judy. Some of you have met Judy. Some of you haven't yet. And she brings an additional really cool nuance to it, because after I get that initial out of you, I use all that empathy, all that wonderful talent that drives my children crazy that I have, where, when you say something, I get sparked by it. I'm like, oh, yeah, and then you could, just kind of like I just did with Patricia, with, that you saw here live, Hawaiian descendant, born of queens. I still like the trapped or captured on Turtle Island, a captive of Turtle Island. Ooh, there could be something in there. And that's just a little bit of insight for you all to get to see the inside of my brain. And I bring that to you in the interview. This is not me doing a pitch for, I'm doing a pitch for you, letting your ears hear you. And what are some of the methodologies that work the best for you to really get the you out and begin to see it? And so, yeah, I do that interview. And then Judy comes in. Judy has this wonderful way of, and again, it's a total intuition, empathy kind of thing, of reading through and putting herself totally in the mindset of who you are. Typically a ghostwriter, and there are some really amazing ghostwriters, Patricia, in fact, being one of those. But let's be honest, most ghostwriters, once you've read one or two of their books, you begin to hear their voice in it. And it's not really the person's book, it's really that ghostwriter's book. Now, I know far too many ghostwriters that put their name on the cover of the book, ghost written by, or, in conjunction with, or with. Okay. And yeah, you have people like James Patterson, who, have built an entire empire around, I'm going to put my name on the book, and I'm going to have a whole bunch of people submit all kinds of manuscripts. And I may do a little bit of tweaking to it, but ultimately I'm going to be the one that you think wrote that book. And that's why when you get James Patterson books, one series can be just massively different than the other series, because they're actually different authors. James Patterson is a organizational name versus a specific person. But the uniqueness that is you. And that's where Judy comes in, and she really helps. And then she's like, but let's go deeper into that. What do you really mean by that? And can bring those out. Now, why is this important? Not because yeah, sure, we'd love to work with you. We absolutely do. But more importantly than that is you seeing yourself. There is something, in fact, let me change the way I said that. There is nothing like having a book that has your name up on it. There's nothing like, your picture on the back cover of a book. I'll show you another example. There's nothing like your bright smiley face on the cover of a book. Most of my books I don't actually have here in print. I happen to have those two here sitting right here on my desk. And there's nothing like that is because you get to step outside of yourself and see you. I can, and some of you know, I've written a whole 2 series now actually of romance fictions. And they're deep, very deep in some cases. But what I know with my writing is, and this is true from both my fiction and nonfiction stuff, I know that I've hit the zone when I'm reading my thing back and it makes me laugh or cry or go, There is something powerful in seeing your words in writing, even more so when they're in print, but in writing to be able to see that. There's a validation in that. You see, your words are already there and you say them all the time. The only person that's not believing them is you. And that's why they're not impacting the people you want them to impact, is because you're lacking that belief in yourself. The words haven't really soaked into your ears, through your ears, into your brain, drops from your brain, gets down into your heart until it goes all the way down into that gut where it's just part of you. And you need that. And this is where that starts. This is why we have the Visibility Amplifier community, for you to be able to practice that stuff, say that stuff. Yes, I am absolutely always going to encourage you, both because I know that one of the most basic foundational elements of marketing is the phrase bestseller. But secondarily to that, because I know how badly you need to see and how much you need to be a best-selling author. There will be, again this year, about 2 million books that'll get published on Amazon or in other realms. About 2 million total books that'll go out in publication this year. Of that, somewhere in the neighborhood of about 3.5% of those will ever make it onto a bestseller list. Okay, and then of that, about 5%-ish of it. Well, okay, let me back up a step. Of that, about 20% of that 3.5%, so you take that 3.5%. So 3.5% of 2 million would be about 600 and what is that, like somebody do quick math on me. I don't know, 65,000. It's either 65 or 650. Okay, whatever. It's either 65,000 or 650,000. Sorry that my brain isn't working that quickly while I'm still trying to stay articulate with you. And then of that, about 20%. So we'll say it's 650. Just that can't possibly be, because that would be more like a third. That would be 30%. So 3%, it's like 65,000. Okay, so of that 65,000, 20% of those are going to, also rank in more than one country. In other words, they're an international bestseller. Okay, so 20% of that, that's about 12,000. 13, since we said 65. Okay. Of that, about 5% of those will ever have made it to number one. I'm talking about whether you're talking about for a minute or for, years. Okay, so 5% of 13,000 is, 10% would be 1,300. So half of that is, about 650 people. Now, maybe my math is off on that, and maybe it's 6,500 people out of the 2 million. And that would be really pushing it. Are there ways you can do it? Absolutely. And are there all kinds of people out there that have programs for that? Yes. But why? And that's the question. Why? Because you need to look at a book. You need to pick it up. You need to see this thing that says #1 international bestseller. Okay, not just a bestseller, not just one of, 100,000 or whatever, or 600,000 or whatever that number was. Not just one of 12,000, but one of like 650 people in the world this year. You need that because your brain needs to see how uniquely, wonderfully, incredibly special you are. And even more so than when you start talking about the fact that you were #1, you were the it in that category. Why did I go on and on about that? Not because I'm trying to get you to buy a book from me. I mean, you can get that book. GetMagnetizedMedia.com. You can get that book. There's cool stuff that we've got on that page. But really, what I want you to do is I want you to see you on the cover of that book. You as a best-selling author. But most importantly, your words. I need you to begin to hear your words and see the power of those words and know that there is somebody waiting on you. Their name is the same as yours. And they look at you every day when you look in the mirror. Somebody suffering in your silence, and that somebody is you. And we need to change that. So today's the day to go to visibilityamplifier.com and let's look at your clarity. How can you clearly know and be you? Your consistency. How can you then show up every single day as the best version of you during the day that's called today? So that you connect with that most important person that you're ever going to connect with in the whole entire world. You. I want that for you. I can't wait to see the transitions. Do come join us, visibilityamplifier.com. I'm here. If there's anything I can do to help you, drop me a DM. Let me know. I'm here to help you. Tomorrow, because we're together again every day, right? Tomorrow we're going to talk about safe enough to speak, brave enough to be seen by you. Yeah, we're going to keep talking about you. You need to be safe. You need to speak it, and you need to see you and how incredibly powerful you are. I hope you'll come and join us. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so proud of all that you're doing in this world. I hope that you really do feel happy, that you get warm hugs, and that you're really, really loved. And if not, that's even more so a reason to join us at visibilityamplifier.com so we can love on you and tell you how cool you are. And until we're together again next time, I really hope, I really, really do, that you have a great week.